Gromson. Another white game. All right, let's go again. All right, the French. So those of you who've been around for a while, you know what we're doing against the French. We're playing the Steinitz variation, e5. So this is the advance. But instead of c3, we play this very odd-looking move, knight f3, which has brought us a lot of success thus far. Queen b6. A queen b6 is what we usually face, and so this is surprising to me because I would imagine that most people would take on d4 here. But this doesn't change how we handle this position. We still play bishop d3. We don't care about c takes d4. Knight c6. Okay, so I looked at this line a little bit, and I concluded that rather than castling here, it's a good idea to take on c5 in this position, which leads to a very important pawn structure. Well, it basically leads to exactly the same pawn structure that would have occurred if black had taken on d4, except we don't sacrifice the pawn. And this position is already pretty bad for black. So how should we develop our pieces here? Normally, the best scheme of development is knight b to d2 and then knight b3. I'm sure you guys are familiar with this maneuver. This is very typical in such positions. But given that black is not very well developed in this particular instance, you can also consider developing the knight to c3, which may seem a little awkward, but it threatens knight a4, which would eliminate black's very important dark squared bishop. Why is it important? Because black's other bishop is terrible. You should also be aware that the Greek gift sacrifice is on the cards in case black castles kingside. So knight c3 is the sort of principled move here, the most testing move, and that's what we're going to play. Another maneuver that you should be aware of, especially given queen c7 happened, where else can the knight go? So first of all, knight a4 is excellent in this position. The bishop doesn't have a lot of good squares. We could play knight a4. We could also play knight b5 and try to sink our teeth into d6. Let's see what happens if we do that. Now, are we going to go knight d6 check immediately? Well, probably not. That would be a pawn sacrifice. How can we prepare knight d6? Well, now, of course, knight d6 is very strong. But notice that we can prepare knight d6 by getting our bishop out to f4. Here, we don't need to do that because d6 is uncovered. So let's go knight d6 check while it's not too late. Okay, and with such a monster pawn on d6, black's position already sucks. Now, to play these positions well, there's a couple of things that we should understand. The first is we are not terribly afraid. You shouldn't be terribly afraid of losing this pawn. Worst comes to worst, you lose that pawn, you can continue playing. You've got a lot of other trump cards in this position. Now, I'm looking at a move here that can be a little bit hard to explain. It's just sort of a move that improves our position. And it's not really a waiting move per se. It's just that we're kind of waiting for black to reveal how they want to develop, whether black wants to castle or keep the king in the center. And the sort of standard move that does that is rook e1, right? That's kind of the move you default to in many of these instances. It also kind of provokes black into castling because it creates an x-ray against the e6 pawn, which in turn, those of you with a sharp tactical eye might see bishop takes g6 and queen takes d5 is sort of a small threat which would win a pawn. Knight b4. Okay, that's very good. Now, we don't want to give away d6, right? I said it would be okay if we do, but that's not the ideal scenario. How do we go about defending the d6 pawn? Can we defend that pawn at all? Well, you would want to play bishop f4, but that blunders the bishop. So don't abandon that idea. Can we get bishop f4 anyway? Yeah, we can take the knight first. We can eliminate the knight, and then we can put the bishop on f4. And because black doesn't have a dark squared bishop, that pawn on d6 is going to be a huge problem for black, because black will not be able to attack it with anything. I mean, look at how much that disturbs the coordination of black's pieces. Another thing to realize is that by castling short, black is opening himself up to potential attacks down the h-file with, for example, a rook lift. Yeah, with the added benefit of ruining the pawn structure and opening up the h-file. Now, you might say, well, wait a minute. What if black doesn't castle? Doesn't the h-file benefit him? Not really, because other than the rook on the h8, black doesn't have any other firepower on the king side, so castles. Okay, now I propose that we don't procrastinate. The thing about these positions is that the longer you wait and you sort of accumulate, the greater the chance that your opponent has time to consolidate. So we've got a couple of ways that we can that we can attack here. Many, many good options here. A classy positional move with a tactical basis would be c2, c4. And hoping for takes d7, trapping the bishop. But let's go for black's king. Well, queen d3 blunders the queen. Yeah, knight g5 is the move I want to play because, as I'll explain after the game, black is a very annoying idea in this position. The idea of going f6, f7, f6, and e6, e5. And if black gets both of those moves in, that is the one way in which we can, our grip on the position can be loosened because the bishop's contact with the pawn will be lost. And I think everybody can see that that's an unpleasant scenario. So knight g5 has several ideas. The main one is preventing f6 because e6 is going to hang. So it's also prophylactic in addition to being an attacking move, obviously. Okay, bishop d7. Now, we can definitely go queen g4. That's one option. But the funny thing is that queen g4 still allows f6. I don't like queen g4 because of f6. Instead, I would prefer a slightly different maneuver. How else can we get the queen to the h-file? And Eduardo, your move is good too. c3 would chase the knight away to c6. Well, queen f3 is what I had in mind. Black has a very nasty response to queen f3, believe it or not, that I'm trying to figure out. I'll talk about it afterward. There is, our opponent will probably not see it, but there's something a little bit annoying against queen f3. We could also play h4, h5, that's true. We could also lift the rook up to e3. Let's go rook e3. Let's do the rook lift. Let's do a rook lift. We'll check afterward. I feel like there must be something very convincing here. I'm not seeing anything that inspires too much confidence, but this, I think, should do the trick. Rook c8. Okay, now I think the time has come for us to get this queen into the attack with queen g4. Now that we have the additional idea of A going queen h4, B going rook h3, I think it's time to press the button here, so to speak. It's not so simple. These positions are never as easy to win as they seem, and it can be infuriating. Now let's see if our opponent finds a defense against queen h4. There's only, in my opinion, yep, he does. Okay, but now knight takes c6. That's the whole point. And I think I calculated a very cool line here. Let's hope it happens. I'm really hoping for knight takes c2. That's part of what I was calculating. I'm really hoping for knight takes c2. Which looks really bad, right? It looks like it forks. Looks like it gives a fork. Knight takes c2. Now the point is, play queen takes g6. Okay, well, what's happening here? And probably, rook h3 was probably just better, wasn't it? No, this is fine. So, what's happening here is that we're threatening checkmate. We're threatening checkmate on g7. So, taking either of the rooks is out of the question. Now, looking at this for a little longer, you might say, well, wait a minute. Black can play bishop takes e6. And after rook takes e6, then black can take the rook in the corner. Knight takes a1, and there's no longer checkmate on g7. But what is the key move in that position? After bishop e6, rook e6, knight a1, we have rook e6 to e7. Okay, well, that's a little anticlimactic with the unstoppable threat of checkmate. I think that wins for white. Yeah, I don't know what it is with, like, mate threats. And maybe somebody can fill me in. Like, I guess that's just what happens when we put a lot of pressure. You know, these kind of blunders are common. Yeah, I did not play in the cleanest way, I have to admit. So, you can look at... at some point I'm going to group all the speedrun games by opening, and we've had a lot of these lines, a lot of these French games. So DC, castles, knight c3 is very strong here. Preparing knight a4 and also knight b5, knight d6. Though generally, as I said, knight bd2 and knight b3 is the traditional square development square for the knight. Yeah, but it was already lost. No, knight c3. Queen c7, knight b5, back to b6. We give a check on d6. This is all amazing. Knight g6, rook e1. Sort of a semi-waiting move. Knight b4, we take it and go bishop f4. Castles. And I wonder if we chose the wrong approach here. Maybe there is something cleaner. Knight g5. Bishop d7, rook e3. Rook c8, queen g4. Yeah, so why was I afraid of queen g4 straight away? Because of f6. And after knight e6, rook e8, the point behind already having a rook on e3 is that now we can double on the e-file and protect the e6 knight. Here the knight on e6 is really, really loose. And if we play queen takes g6, then black takes on e6. And guys, come on. You know full well. Oh, but no, white is winning here. Oh, and I miscalculated. White, this actually was the best, I think. White is winning here. With what move? I think a lot of you think, oh, you know, this 1700 missed mate in one. What an idiot. But obviously, he's just been under a lot of pressure. Bishop h6, unstoppable mate on g7. The pawn on d6 is covering both squares on the 7th rank. That was a complete mental lapse by me. And this is exactly the same thing. So the best move here would have definitely been queen g4 straight away. Okay, so I didn't see that. Instead, I decided to prepare that with rook e3. Why didn't I play queen f3? So who can tell me what defensive idea does black have in this position? And I think I already mentioned it. But this is why I almost played queen f3, aiming for queen h3 and mate. The problem is black plays e5, yeah. What is the point of that move? Well, the point is that black establishes contact with the h3 square, which means queen h3 is impossible. And if you take with a rook, you get forked. If you take with a bishop, you also get forked. And I thought this is really, really unclear. Probably white is fine because of the attack, but I didn't see anything convincing here. So this is a classic defensive idea. You push a pawn out of the way in order to protect the square with your bishop. And so I decided to make a sort of, not a waiting move, just an attacking move to see how black is going to continue. And after rook c8, only now did we play queen g4. And my point was that after rook fe8, and by the way, queen takes g6 is still winning. My intention was to play rook a e1 in order to protect the knight. And after knight takes c2, I calculated queen takes g6. And if, well, there's a mate threat. And if bishop e6, then after rook e6, we're attacking the rook on e8. It's a classic scenario, right? If black takes the rook, then the other rook takes, and there's no longer a rook on e1. Is e4 the right follow-up afterwards for black? Where? You mean after e5? Yeah, but I'm assuming we'll take the pawn, so there will be no e-pawn. If you drop the bishop back to g3, then already black can take on c2 with a fork, because we don't have any attack down the h-file. So, yeah, so this was not a very smooth attack. How would I have defended as black here? You know what I would have done here? I would have gone rook 8 e8. That's probably what I would have done. Intending f6. And if queen g4, then after f6, knight takes e6, I would already play knight takes c2. And the opportunity train has passed. Oh, but now I think there's knight takes f8. Now I think there's the brilliant move knight takes f8. And bishop g4, there's rook takes e8, and white has two rooks for the... No, but this is unclear. King f7. This is a complete mess. So I would have played rook e8 so that queen takes g6 would not be possible anymore because black is making contact with the knight two different ways. So this is already very, very messy. Does that make sense? The idea behind rook a to e8 to prepare f6? Yeah, these are hard positions to make heads or tails of. Now, white is under no obligation to play queen g4. My idea with white was actually to swing the rook to b3 and try to pick off this knight using the pin. I'm sure the computer would have laughed at me. How would the h4, h5 idea work? I struggle with executing such pawn storm attacks successfully. Well, the idea behind h4 is very simple. You want to play h5. You want black to take, and then you want to get your queen to h5, and then you want to checkmate on h7. The problem with h4 is that it's very, very slow. h4, h5 takes 2 moves, and 2 moves in such a position is kind of an eternity. And after h5, I was concerned about f6. But it occurs to me now that white, I think, has a very powerful and brilliant mating idea. Who can tell me what... I think this idea leads to checkmate. What concept does white have here? H takes g6. Yeah, you just sack all of your minors. Queen h5. And the hero is the pawn on d6. That is the real hero of the position, not the queen and the pawn, because otherwise the king would easily escape through e7 to d8. People forget about that constantly. They think this is mate, but it's never actually mate if the king can escape toward the center. Here the d6 pawn is holding that square. So it may be that h4 was also very strong. And perhaps black doesn't have the time to organize a successful defense to that. Now, the thing is, after rook e8, h5, black can ignore. Black does not have to take. And black does not have to play f6. For example, black can play knight c6 and prepare e5 that way. And this also seems a little bit iffy for white, although hgfg, and now queen g4 looks incredibly strong as well. Well, let's check the computer. Let's see. Let's have the computer laugh at us a little bit. Okay, so knight c3 is correct, as I actually analyzed this. I remember that. Knight b5, knight d6 check. So we played correctly here. Rook e1 is the top move. Very good. Bishop g6, bishop f4. Bishop f4 is not... Oh, we could have played a3, and I mentioned this idea. We could have just gone for the pawn. a3 and queen takes d5. Yeah, that would have been very, very strong, but okay, we played bishop f4. Knight g5 is good. d7. Now we played... Let's see. Let's check queen g4. g4, f6. No, f6 is good for black. Oh, there's g5. Yeah, there's this intermediate move, g5, which leads to a total mess. That is a move that I missed. Yeah, g5 here. So it's good that we didn't play queen g4. I played here. That's actually not a bad move. After rook c8, queen g4, yeah, black had to play f6. Black had to play f6 here. Oh, no, he did. He did play f6. This was the decisive mistake, knight takes c2. He had to find an only move, g5. Queen f5. Gf rook h3 is mating. So black has to find rook f e8 only move. Man. Look at this line. Rook e1, gf, queen g6. No, but again, you can see that even the computer struggles to defend this. Takes, 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 takes. We're threatening rook e7, so knight c6. Now d7, threatening rook e8, so black has to go rook f8. And what a position. White is down a piece, but white has him completely tied down. We go h5, h6. So black has to force matters with knight e5. Takes, takes, queen e8. And now black has to give up the knight for the pawn, which leads to a better queen endgame for white. Simple line right there. Very simple line. Wow. I'm sure this is where we would want a higher depth computer. But the engine is giving still an advantage for white here, which is pretty awesome. So I didn't play too badly. I didn't play too badly. It looks like I never relinquished the advantage, but I kind of rushed it with bishop f4. This is a great lesson in never rushing a move, right? Bishop f4 is super automatic. You're defending d6. But if you take a little bit longer, you say, wait a second, I can actually win a pawn with a3 and queen takes d5, and now white is completely winning. But okay, if you guys want, we can look at if you guys are interested, I can load this into ChessBase, and then we can really dig deep and see what the actual evaluation is. Okay, so we see here, knight e5 is the top move at a high depth. Knight e5, wow. Knight g5 is the second move. Okay, so we played knight g5, that's good. Bishop d7. And now the key position. So a3 on depth 30 is the top move. Let's see. a3, knight c6, and queen d3. Well, that makes sense, actually, because you want to go to h3. This actually does make sense. And now, if black plays e5, then we play bishop takes e5. And obviously, f6 fails now to queen takes g6. Look at this position. No matter which minor piece you take, the other minor piece participates in the checkmate. That's awesome. And if black plays knight takes e5 and then f6, Then we have queen takes d5 check and knight f7 check, and you save all of your pieces with a winning position. So, because rook f7, queen f7, and you're hitting the bishop simultaneously, right? So that was the best move according to the engine. Rook e3, our move, is not great. Let's see why it's not great. Rook a c8. So rook a c8 is the top move, along with knight c6. Okay, queen g4 is the top move as well. f6. Yeah, no, the line that the chess.com Stockfish game seems to be the one that this Stockfish is giving as well. f6, knight e6. And now the only move was g5. So we were looking at queen f5. Wow, queen c... Oh my god, what a line. Queen c6. Well, look at this craziness. Rook takes c2 is the second best move. Bishop g5, queen d6, bishop h6. Rook f7, only move. Queen g6, sacking the knight, and then going rook e1. Oh my god, rook c7, rook e6, rook c e7. Threatening the back rank mate. Queen takes f7 check. The point is you're distracting the rook so that you can take the queen. And if the king takes, then you take e7. Black has to give the queen away. And then you fizzle out into this very, very simple endgame, which of course is equal. Ridiculous line. And that is if black had gone... That is if black had gone rook takes c2. But apparently, according to the engine, queen c6, which is totally inhuman. What does this move even do? Queen b6 to c6, just calmly repositioning the queen. No clue what the point of this move is. Oh my god, look at this idea! Rook c3? No way. Rook c3, black's only move is rook c8, sacking the queen. And the point is that after bishop takes c6, white's queen is trapped. The only square is g6, and the bishop keeps pursuing the queen between e6 and g6. This is a ridiculous idea. I mean, even for like you don't see this often. What the hell? Only move rook ce8 in this position. Rook c3, rook ce8. I'm gonna take a photo of this. This is a great position for my like highest rated students. Absolutely wild. So it is a draw, but this is wrong. This is what the chess.com engine... Oh, no. We knew this was wrong. We were looking at this line. And then we were also looking at rook fe8, which is what the chess.com engine gave. And as you can see, this is wrong. Although it's not totally winning. This is the line that we were looking at, which ends in a better queen endgame for white. Yeah, but it all stems from g5. It's clear that g5 is the only move. You cannot afford to give up the g6 pawn. Once that pawn falls, it's just checkmate. I mean, it's +8. Takes. This was correctly calculated by me. And what's incredibly important is the role of this bishop on f4. It's covering the c1 square. I hope you guys saw that. Otherwise, this would be losing, because rook c1 would force white to waste a move. But now you just go rook e7, and rook c1, you can just take it with the bishop. So, unconventional. Thank you for the 26 months. Well, but in this position, knight e5 is also very strong. And the point of knight e5 is to prevent f6, right? You're just preventing f6 in a different way than knight g5. It's like a symmetrical idea on the other side of the board, right? And if queen d6, you have this, I think. e5 and just knight takes e5, and you're just winning here. So, knight e5 is more accurate here. But a3 and queen takes d5 I should have seen. I rushed bishop f4. You can't rush any move, right? You can't take anything for granted. And a3 would have eliminated all of this intrigue. But everything else was correct. Like this whole knight b5 idea was correct. Now bishop e3 apparently was very strong. Look at this move. Bishop e3 seemingly walking into a fork, but in reality you have knight b5 and knight b takes d4. And the point is that at the end of this line, black can't take because of the typical idea, bishop b5 check. And the secondary point is that if black takes on e3, you have an intermezzo, knight b5. Now, by eliminating the bishop, you're able to get your knight into d6, and black cannot capture it. And you open up the f-file. This looks totally devastating. I mean, the pressure on f7 is going to be unbearable. So it's kind of cool to analyze with an engine. You expose yourself to all of these cool ideas, and some of them are going to stick. Like some of them you might find yourself applying in your games, but don't feel badly if you miss the 99% of it because nobody sees most of these ideas. All right, enough though. Enough. We're gonna pause here. Thank you everybody for the support. Always appreciated. Thank you for hanging out. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.